I'm just one of those Liberals who can't support Trudeau this time out.
Oh, check Leslie out. Great candidate.
Oh, I know she's a great candidate. She's the best of the bunch.
Yeah.
Justin Trudeau.
Welcome back to Northern Perspective, everyone. I'm Cypher.
And I'm Fox. The CBC can't find anyone on the street who will vote Liberal in the upcoming by-election, and Pierre Poilievre has a radical immigration policy, only allow the number of people into the country that matches our system capacity.
Let's take a look.
On a busy morning, it's hard to break through the noise.
Good morning, good morning.
Especially to talk politics.
Hi folks, I'm Leslie Church. I'm your local Liberal candidate.
Toronto St. Paul's has been a safe seat for the Liberals for more than 30 years, and Leslie Church is Justin Trudeau's candidate this time around. She's favored to win this by-election, but it's his name that's on voters' minds.
I'm just one of those Liberals who can't support Trudeau this time out.
Oh, check Leslie out. Great candidate.
Oh, I know she's a great candidate. She's the best of the bunch.
Yeah.
Justin Trudeau.
It's a sentiment Church can't ignore.
Well, look, I do hear a lot of that too, and I think that that's pretty natural for this point in time.
She's pitching Liberal policies on housing and daycare, but she knows the rising cost of living is driving some people away from her party.
They're frustrated, they're cranky, but I also think that they are smart and thoughtful, and that when they look at the alternatives here, they want to vote for people who are actually going to bring real solutions to the table.
Think you can win this thing?
The solution for many of the voters we spoke to, shifting support to Conservative candidate Don Stewart.
Look, we've had a super busy morning, knocking on doors, talking to voters at doors.
Talking to voters, but not journalists.
To voters.
What are voters telling you?
Thank you.
What are they telling you?
Yeah.
Even Liberal voters at the advanced polls say this by-election should be a wake-up call for the party and its leader.
This riding is important enough as an indicator that he should really seriously contemplate passing the baton at this point while there's still time for a new leader to gain some traction.
Polls suggest the race could be tight.
A lot of the Jewish community usually votes Liberal NDP, and a lot of things have changed.
A lot of time has gone by now, and it's just time for a change.
I had a hard time making a selection this year. I'll just put it that way.
It all comes down to Election Day on June 24th. A poor showing here by the Liberals in St. Paul's could lead to some soul-searching for the party and for Justin Trudeau. JP Tasker, CBC News, Toronto.
This is, of course, as I said, the upcoming by-election in Toronto St. Paul. Now, the Conservatives, I believe, they would be thrilled with a win, but they're not expecting to win. What they want and what they're hoping for is a real shrinking of the gap between the Liberals and the Conservatives. Because if the Conservatives can demonstrate that they've really shrunk the gap in a riding like Toronto St. Paul, which is a historically red riding, this is what they're talking about when they're talking about a wake-up call for Justin Trudeau.
Yeah, if you have a riding that even if the Conservatives lose, but they only lose by a couple thousand votes, that is a huge wake-up call in what has been historically a Liberal stronghold.
Right, because I believe in the last election, the Liberals won that with 50% of the popular vote. So if they only win by a few thousand, that is a real strong indicator about A, how the rest of Toronto is going to vote, and B, how the rest of the country is going to vote. And if the Liberals do manage to actually win this, Tom Mulcair is he's actually speculated that actually may be the end of Justin Trudeau if they lose this riding, because it just shows that all of these voters that used to vote for Trudeau are either A, not voting at all because they would rather not vote for anyone, or they're voting Conservative. And this is the thing. I also like the fact that the CBC kind of talked down Don Stewart, because He said, well, he's talking to voters, but he's not talking to journalists. Why would he talk to journalists?
Well, he's busy. He's got work to do. Why do you think he's going to stop and talk to you?
Yeah, hello.
Come on.
he's door knocking to try and narrow that gap. What's wrong with you?
Right, he's running out of time. This by-election is Monday. The advance polls are open now.
Yeah.
So why would he waste precious moments speaking to the CBC of all journalism outlets?
And notice what he was saying to them. So what are you up to today? Door knocking. Trying to get votes. What are you doing besides wasting my time, CBC?
And taxpayer money.
70% of that time was paid by the taxpayer. So there you go. Anyway, so that's coming up on June 24th, and as I said, what we're hoping for is a strong showing. The Conservatives were still about 5 points behind on 338 Canada. But they're, they only have I think 20-ish% chance to win based on, statistics. So I wouldn't be so disappointed if the Conservatives don't win that seat, but it's a really good indicator if they have a fairly tight race. That's going to make the Liberals panic.
And don't forget, just because they're going to a by-election right now, it does not mean that they don't participate in the general election. If a general election is called even the day after a by-election, that riding goes to election again. So I think this is really going to send a wake-up call to the Liberals, and it's also a chance for the people of Toronto St. Paul's to send that message and to perhaps opt for change.
Right. So anyway, we move on to our next story. Pierre was actually in an interview with a French publication out in Quebec. And what he had stated was that, oh my goodness, the Conservative Party, if they form government after the next election, they would lower immigration to match how many houses are going to be built per year. Now, what that will also do is reduce the stress, or at least the inflating stress, on all of our other systems, on our hospital system, on the amount of money that we pay immigrants to actually come into the country.
The job market,
right.
The education system, so many different systems that Canadians rely on every day. And right now we're maxed out. Again, Cypher and I have zero issue with immigration. Canada does need immigration, and most of us are the product of immigrants. I mean, my grandparents immigrated here in the 50s, and that's how I ended up being Canadian. I was born here. But you cannot have more people coming into the country than the country can support. It's not fair to the people who live here currently, and it's also not fair to the people who are leaving their homes in different countries and coming to Canada hoping for a better life, but they can't access those services and those jobs that they've been promised.
Well, and let's take a look at jobs. This is a graph of Canada's unemployment rate. And you can see it maxed out during the UBI test period, which was COVID in 2020. It was all the way up at 14.5%. And the Liberals were saying, "Oh, look, we're bringing the unemployment rate down. We're bringing it down." Well, you can see from 2022 at its lowest, we're now creeping back up, and it's above pre-COVID levels. As they keep, reminding us about, oh, well, blah, 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 it's the best since pre-COVID. Well, not anymore. Because you keep bringing in new people and there's not enough jobs for them. So this is just another indicator, never mind housing, that this is a problem. And we need to look at immigration. There's nothing wrong with the immigrants themselves. The issue is that the Liberals are selling them a false promise. And no wonder 30% of them get here and they're like, wait a minute, this isn't what I was promised. This is terrible. I'm leaving. 30% of immigrants are leaving Canada shortly after they get here.
Yeah, I think it's within 2 years is the proper stat.
I think so.
I mean, can you imagine those of you that have moved house before and that's within the same country, maybe within the same city even, And it's a lot of work. You have to, you know, pack everything up, find the movers. There's a lot of planning involved. It is a lot of work to move house. Now, can you imagine that you're moving across country to a different country or even overseas, halfway around the world? That is a lot of work to go to. And then when you get to your new home, it's not what you were expecting. It's not what you were promised.
Right. And you know, the fact that these people are choosing to move again, that just shows what a different picture they were given of Canada back in their home country. So going back to housing, which is one of the primary drivers of this, you'll see that this is an article from the CBC, 2024 federal budget, key takeaways, housing and carbon rebates, right? And you'll see that they want to spend $53 billion on housing over the next 5 years. $53 billion. And they've already spent billions, and they launched all these quote unquote housing initiatives and allegedly partnering with all of these municipalities, handing out hundreds of millions of dollars to different municipalities around the country. So they want to build 3.9 million homes by what, 2030?
Yeah, it was 2030. And we did the math on this one in a previous episode. You would have to build around the clock, nonstop, more than a house a minute to get that accomplished.
Right. So you would expect that if they're dumping all of this money into housing, that you would see that investment in residential construction should be through the roof. And they've unlocked, as they keep saying, all of these houses. You would expect the housing starts to go through the roof as well. Let's take a look. So, as of April, housing investment is down by 2.7%. I don't know how it goes down. I really don't. How does it go down when they're dumping all of this money into housing? It doesn't make any sense. You don't even have to look at a lot of these numbers, but you can see that. So Trudeau's housing peak was around 2021 with around 271,000 housing starts. And they only completed, around 222,000 homes that year. And in 2022, they went down by around 10,000 homes. So they started only 261 versus 271,000 in 2022. And they only completed around 219,000 homes. In 2023, they went down by another 20,000. So Justin's going in the wrong direction. He needs to be completing around something like 550,000 homes per year. And he's on track to complete less in 2024, or to start less in 2024 than they started in 2023. So
again, the supply is down, which is the housing, and the demand for the housing is up.
And they're spending more, like billions more, and achieving less. So this goes back to this point we've raised repeatedly. How is it possible that they're spending hundreds of millions of dollars with these cities, but starting less homes? Gee, could it maybe be that giving bureaucracies hundreds of millions of dollars doesn't actually build homes? Maybe.
Shocking.
Oh. Like, somebody get me a defibrillator. I'm going to die of shock. So, but the funny thing is this was all in the plan. It was all laid out in the Liberals' housing plan. And we have to show you that plan. Okay, so that sounds like everything that was in the budget, right?
I think so.
That video was from 2 years ago.
So they just got around to putting it in the budget now.
Yeah, this was actually the video that they were using for the 2021 election.
Are you... You can't be serious. Okay, so Cypher saw this. He's the one that put this together. And I'm just sitting here in shock that this was for the 2021 election. Because, number one, they said about a year ago that housing is not a primary federal government responsibility. And number two, all these things they are just getting around to doing now.
Yeah.
And I don't even know if they're actually doing them. They're just promising them now.
Yeah, they only started these things in the fall of 2023 after their cabinet retreat saying, hey, do you think maybe we should start on housing? Like, this is the joke. And
so, wait. Sorry, guys. If this was from 2021, this video was from 2021, and it said they would decrease chronic homelessness.
Oh yeah.
But in the past few years, it's gotten so much worse.
Oh yeah. Yeah, they've increased housing just intense.
This is shocking. Like, this is gross.
Yeah. Now when you go back to the CBC video, and CBC is all confused why nobody wants to vote for Justin Trudeau, but they want to vote for the candidate. Now, I think they should know why. But again, the great thing is that when and if, or if and when, depending what order you want to put those in, the Conservatives actually take government. And as we said before, as we get closer to an election, Pierre is going to be more and more concise and clear with what his platform is going to be, because it's less and less time for the Liberals to actually steal his ideas and actually, take credit for them. So,
or use them against him. In this case, the Liberals would probably call him racist or xenophobic or something, compare him to Trump probably, and say, oh, he's against immigration, whatever, which is not the case. It's just this country needs a good immigration policy in that it matches the amount of resources available for everybody. Because again, I'll say it again, if you have more people coming into the country than the country can support, it is unfair to absolutely everybody.
Well, and again, I think Pierre waited just long enough, because the Liberals can't actually use that narrative anymore, because everybody, all political parties, all academia, they're saying you cannot have this many people coming into the country. It is driving up housing.
Well, and it's important to remember, we can't be upset with people who want to seek a better life in Canada. We need to be upset with our government for breaking promises and for allowing our system to be overburdened by more people than it can currently support.
So, if you're in Toronto, St. Paul on June 24th and you're watching this video, maybe show it to some of your Liberal friends and maybe able to influence the outcome of an election.